Boom! The University of Texas adds a commitment. Brian Swanson, offensive lineman out of Dallas's South Oak Cliff High School, 6'5", 300+ pounds. A big pickup for the Longhorns. Jordan, you texted with Swanson just a few minutes ago. Why did the big guy from South Oak Cliff pick the Longhorns?
Felt like a priority. He's been a priority from the jump since the day they offered him June 1st of 2024 as he was getting ready to go into his sophomore year. In fact, Kyle Flood and Steve Sarkisian actually offered him before he started a single varsity game. So they've been big believers in him for a long time. He felt that way. On the relationships front, nobody was coming close to Texas. Kyle Flood, Deron Gatewood did a really good job here, but so did Chris Gilbert. Sock alum himself. He also was the former head coach of the Golden Bears from 2006 to 2009. So many things are going Texas's way in this one for a long time. And, hey, 2 years later, they got him in the boat.
Hey, I've got to ask you this, Jerry Hamilton. You've been up to see Brian Swanson multiple years now. What does this mean for Texas Longhorn recruiting overall? Third offensive line commit, but this one's a big one in particular because he plays tackle, right? I mean, what's going on here with Texas offensive line recruiting right now?
Yeah, I think that's it. I mean, it's 1 out of 2 tackles they want in the class. Look, he's going to be a guy that will probably need the year to develop, like most guys do that come in. There are very few Kelvin Banks in the world, right? But he is like we talked about him many times. I mean, it's the effort down the field. It's these plays like this. He has things you can't teach as a prospect, and this is one of them. He is a high effort player. Obviously, he's got the frame, he's got the feet, he's got the reactive quickness, he's got the body quickness. He is a tackle prospect, but he plays with great effort, and he plays with really good physicality. Saw him the last time I saw him up close was at the Under Armour All-America game for a couple of practices when he played in that, and he more than belonged there. And he is a guy that effort level, if he continues with that effort level and that love for the game that he shows, he comes from a winning program. But I would say this too, this guy, it's going to mean something to him to wear the Texas jersey. He's wanted to go to Texas for a while. I mean, like anytime we talk to a source on this, it was always Texas for Brian Swanson. So I think it adds extra meaning that this is the jersey he's wanted to wear, because at the offensive line position, I really think that matters for guys that when it gets tough in the fourth quarter and you're playing against NFL guys across the line of scrimmage from you, how much does it mean the field you're playing on and who you're playing for? I think that stuff matters, especially for these guys as they develop. But Texas wants one more offensive tackle in this class, a for-sure offensive tackle. Then they have a guy like Lucas Roa coming in this week, and they're going to take a swing on, who's more of one of those swing players. Could be a tackle, could be a guard. Obviously, Roa visited Penn State last week and has ties to Penn State of Pennsylvania and Penn State, and he's also visited UCLA and Oregon.
Just if you're just now joining us, the University of Texas has added a pledge. Brian Swanson, left tackle out of Dallas's South Oak Cliff, state champion, has committed to the University of Texas. Big pickup for the Longhorns and Coach Kyle Flood. This is a guy that they had identified very early in the process and is now a Longhorn. Jordan, I want to go back to you. Who did the Longhorns beat out in this recruitment, and who maybe came in second place, I guess?
Oklahoma and SMU were the main competition. A&M was also in there for a long time. They kind of started bowing out towards the end of the spring, though. But if I had to label one, I'd go SMU finished in second. But, to be completely honest, this was never really a close recruitment the last 2 years. Every time I asked anyone about this, they said Texas, since that Texas offer was extended 2 years ago. So this one was kind of Texas versus the field the whole way through and all the way until the end.
It seems like this is one of those, Jerry, we talk about tiers of offensive linemen, right, for this day and age as it relates to NIL. This is a big one for the University of Texas, correct?
Oh, yeah. Look, he's been a tier one for a long time. And rankings, no matter where the rankings sit on him, and he's a top 150 prospect in the country, in my mind, has a chance to be a top 100 level prospect in the country. This has been a top guy for Texas, and that has never wavered. That has never changed. He was a tier one type of guy for Texas for well over a year. Obviously, Jordan mentioned, and we mentioned many times, this is the first offensive lineman Texas offered in this cycle, the first, and they've never backed off how much they like him.
That's great to hear. All right, let's take a look at the overall recruiting class now for the Longhorns, if you don't mind. Easton Royal coming in. This is just by their current recruiting ranking, not necessarily on Texas football rankings, but industry composite style rankings. Number one, Easton Royal right now. He's coming in for an official visit this weekend. Brian Swanson now comes in at number two. Kasai Curry, number three. Brock Williams, number four. Jabarius Garor. Basically, Jerry, what I wanted to bring up here is the number 2 through number 5 are 4 of the last 5 commitments for the Longhorns. So we talked about how June was going to be the time period when Texas started trying to push on some of these highly ranked recruits. That looks like what is in fact occurred at this point.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, look, this is June recruiting. I mean, we've mentioned this. Texas had a number of highly ranked prospects, 10 plus. I think once this weekend is finished, 10 plus guys ranked in the top 100 in the country come through, maybe even up to 12 ranked in the top 100 in the country come through and make official visits to Texas. You're only going to win a percentage of those. You're not going to win them all. You're probably not even going to win 50%. You're going to win a percentage of those. But what Texas has done when you look at this is Easton Royal is their number 1 wide receiver for a long time. Swanson, number 1, first offensive lineman offered in this cycle. Kasai Curry, Texas has been recruiting him for a long time. That wasn't one that developed quickly. Brock Williams, obviously, Texas beat out Georgia there. That was probably, of these guys, the one that developed the quickest. Jabarius Garor, I mean, Texas was on him a while, even while he was committed to Alabama. So when you look at that 2 through 5, those are guys Texas has been on a while too. I mean, there weren't any really quick developing recruitments in this group. So that is what – do relationships matter as much anymore? Not quite. Do they still matter? They do still matter. And guys you recruit over an extended period of time, that does still matter because you do build more relationship, a deeper relationship with a player and a parent, and you get those guys on campus multiple times. That's the thing, Bobby. Swanson, how many times has he been on campus? Probably more than a handful. Curry, number of times. Brock Williams, probably 4 times. Garor is probably the guy who's been on campus at least 2 times of those top 5.
Yeah, you would think, Jordan, that these commitments that we've talked about, these numbers 2 through 5 here on this screen, they mean a lot to the class recruiting rankings. The question is whether or not those recruiting rankings mean as much as they once did from a team perspective. But on an individual level, I think it's interesting that they come from a few of the positions that Texas does not want to have to go to the portal on: offensive tackle, defensive tackle, and edge. What do you make of the overall recruiting class right now for the Longhorns, and what's next for them?
I mean, you brought up hitting the premium positions out of the high school level. Yes, you're going to have some dead money year one. That's just how it is, and you have to accept it. But getting a Brian Swanson as a starter at left tackle as a potential sophomore and junior and having him grow in your own program is going to be much cheaper as sophomore and junior year than if you were getting a same caliber player from the portal. So it's the right strategy. They're building it the right way. One thing that I think has always stood out about Steve Sarkisian's recruiting classes to Texas's recruiting classes before he got there was a lot of the top-ranked players are usually those premium positions, an edge rusher or a trench guy on defense or offense. You look at Tom Herman's old classes, most of the time the top 10 guys were all skill position players, and most of them were. So hitting those is so important. I think this is a really good class. I love the way that they went into official visit season with more commitments than they've ever had, at least under the staff. So, setting the floor early, getting those early commitments gives you more time, more effort, more resources to be able to use on the top priority guys and making sure you close on them like a Brian Swanson or a Kasai Curry. So love the class so far, and I love the strategy the Longhorns have used to get here.
Yeah. Hey, Jerry, what's next for Texas? Swanson becomes number 15. There's a couple guys set to make decisions later this week, including one of the nation's top players out of the Metroplex, John Meredith, the cornerback, number 1 cornerback in the country. What is next for the Longhorns?
Yeah, I mean, look, John Meredith is June 19th. We think that will be on the Pat McAfee show, but we'll wait for John to make that announcement on how and when he's going to announce that decision on June 19th. But behind the scenes, I'm hearing McAfee show is potential or likely there. That's obviously a huge one. Well, look, I mean, when you think about when Will Muschamp was hired, who was the first guy he reached out to? John Meredith, the 5-star corner. Now, this is a sophomore video at Euless Trinity you're watching. But look, this is a huge recruitment for Texas because there just are very few corners that are ranked this highly in America. Devin Sanchez was one of those. But Will Muschamp and Mark Orfe has done a tremendous job recruiting John Meredith and had prior to Muschamp being hired, to be fair. But Will Muschamp came in and directly became a part of this recruitment with Mark Orfe, and that tells you how big a deal John Meredith is to this Texas defensive class potentially in 2027. He's the first guy contacted. He's the first guy that Will Muschamp went to see. So that should tell everybody a lot about where John Meredith has always set for Will Muschamp and under Will Muschamp, the Texas defense. But he announces Friday, we like Texas' chances currently over A&M, and this would be a massive win in the corner spot because I do think corner position is as important as any position in this 27 cycle for Texas because it's Will Muschamp's first cycle as a defensive coordinator. So you're going to recruit some of your guys, right? That doesn't mean every guy on the Texas roster is his type of player and fits his scheme. So what are you recruiting in this class? Guys that aren't just a great player in Meredith or prospect, but guys that fit the scheme. And if you're a tall, long-limbed corner that can play man-to-man in the SEC, you certainly fit anybody's scheme, obviously. But that's something to watch with this defensive class. And a lot of those guys we just talked about are big scheme fits for Will Muschamp, despite being really talented players.
Yeah, I think this is big for Texas. This one would be. He also puts in Jordan. He would add to that list of that 1 through 5 kind of category where Texas has not picked up a lot of guys that are lower ranked of late. It's been the creme de la creme. You've seen Meredith in person. He's ranked as highly as he is, one of the top players in the entire country, the nation's number 1 overall cornerback. Do you think he's that good? And would you think a John Meredith-like guy could potentially play early in this for this team?
Yeah, I very much believe John Meredith is that good, is deserving of being the consensus number 1 corner on all 3 major ranking sites. In fact, one thing I think is kind of crazy to think about, John Meredith, if he ends up at Texas, like we expect, would be the 3rd highest rated commit or signee, whatever, of all time in Texas program history. The only 2 that have a higher 24/7 sports composite rating, which is kind of the industry, whatever you want to call it, is Vince Young and Arch Manning. Both those guys ended up having pretty good careers in Austin. So something to get kind of excited about and kind of to put into perspective how special John Meredith and how rare a prospect like he really is. So as far as where he stacks up amongst best corners I've ever seen, I have to put Devin Sanchez in front of him. Just Devin Sanchez was so special. Even as a freshman, you knew he was going to end up as an NFL player one day. So only one guy in my time in the industry have I seen that I can confidently say I'd take over Meredith. But after that, it's Sanchez, Meredith, kind of a big gap. So a lot to like about the 5-star corner.
Hey, Jerry, let's circle back to Brian Swanson, if you don't mind. Breaking news again while we're having this live stream. Brian Swanson, the offensive tackle out of Dallas South Oak Cliff, has committed to the University of Texas, giving the Longhorns 15 verbal commitments on the recruiting campaign. One of the nation's top overall prospects at offensive line. Jerry, tell folks once again what you think they're getting out of Brian Swanson as a player. And is this a guy that has a chance to start in year 2? Is he? What is your prognosis in that regard?
It's hard to say in the portal day and age on that stuff. But I think Texas is getting a tremendous prospect on the offensive line. Look, I think he checks so many boxes. If you listed a boxes to check, I think he checks almost all of them. And number 1 is great effort. I mean, that is the one thing at this position. You have to have great effort. You have to have a tremendous motor, and you have to have a lot of heart. That heart has to be beating all the time at this position because he is coming into play at Texas in the SEC. He's coming into a high expectation program in a very physical league. Every Saturday he straps up the chin strap on the helmet. He will more than likely be going against an NFL player in the SEC. There may be one weekend he's not at a position, but if he plays tackle, it's probably going to be an NFL draft pick he's going against. So you have to be able to bring that lunch pail every single Saturday. And what I may love most about him is his effort level. He's got really good technique. His coach has done a good job with him. He's got great feet. He's got good bend. Tony Hills, we were talking about that this morning. He checks all those athletic boxes, the frame box, the intelligence box. I've been around him a couple of times there, had a couple of football conversations with him. But the big box he really checks is effort for me in the motor. And those, not all guys have it to the level he shows right here. He shows an elite motor, an elite want to at the position. And that to me is almost as important as anything, because Bobby, the one thing the offensive line has produced, everybody thinks about these guys is if you play tackle, you have to be the best athlete, or you have to have the longest arms, or you have the NFL combine test. Now, number one thing you need to have is effort and physicality.
Yeah, I agree.
There's been guys that aren't the most flexible that went on to be first-round picks and gold jacket guys.
Yeah,
the one thing, their commonality, motor, effort, and heart, man, at that position.
It is the ultimate blue-collar position, in my opinion, in college, in football, right? Offensive line. I would add this on him, and this is something that Tony Hills mentioned this morning, Jerry. He said he really liked how he sat in his pass protection. He felt like he was naturally athletic in it.
Oh, yeah.
I thought that was a big piece of it, especially when you start talking about tackles, right? And you got to protect against what you called NFL caliber defensive ends in the SEC. All right, we're going to get going here. Before we do, Jordan Scruggs, do you have anything else you want to add to this commitment or to this announcement of Brian Swanson? Excuse me.
Yeah, there's so much to like here. I believe the streak of Texas signees that have won a state championship is now like 23. They already accomplished a streak for this year, considering Ty Newton won a state championship in December. But good to have another one. Also, an All-American. He played in the Under Armour All-American game, but still showed up to the Under Armour Dallas camp. The same cannot be said for several other players in the same situation. So he wants to compete. He wants to prove he's the best. I think this is a great example of how Texas can play the long game. And whenever they hone in on a top target early as a sophomore, very rarely will they not get that guy come junior year, senior year. Look at Colin Simmons. There's several other guys I can mention. But with Swanson, one of the rare guys that you can actually project to playing left tackle in the SEC, and a rare combination of high floor and high ceiling. He's done so much training, technique work, skill work, whatever you want to call it, with Zach Collins, South Oak Cliff's offensive line coach. And he also has really good physical specs that you can project him as an NFL player. 34-plus-inch arms. And, I mean, he's 29-3 in his career as a starter. He's played in 2 state championships. Like, I could go on and on about Swanson. In fact, I actually wrote a story up on the site called Things I Like About Texas's Newest Commitment, Brian Swanson. Y'all should go check it out. But, to top it off, just a great one for Texas. This is probably my favorite offensive tackle commit they've had since Kelvin Banks or Cam Williams in that 22 class. Was a little nervous on Brandon Baker, considering he never played left tackle in high school and is a bit smaller. So I love this get for Texas. It's been a long time coming, and, hey, we're here now. He's a Longhorn.
Trevor Goosby turned out okay, too.
No
I don't
doubt.
think anybody expected what he's become. Texas's Kyle Flood done a terrific job there. All right, as well as Trevor Goosby himself. All right, that's going to do it. Jerry Hamilton, thank you so much for sharing your expertise. Same with you, Jordan Scruggs. We'll be back more later today. We also have a special commitment video just for Brian Swanson in this big announcement of his. Texas now at 15 verbal commitments on the recruiting campaign. We'll be back with more later today on OnTexasFootball.com. Make sure you check us out. Later tonight, we'll also have a live stream as well. For Jordan, Jerry, as well as our producer behind the scenes, Matt Hutchison, this has been a special edition of On Texas Football. Brian Swanson, welcome, buddy.